A lot of firms think the risk in advisor change shows up later, when the client leaves, pulls assets, or just starts going quiet.
But it usually starts earlier than that. It starts in the first 90 days when the client is deciding whether this new relationship actually feels steady, personal, and worth trusting.
And that's the part firms can miss, because on paper, the transition may already look done. The handoff happened. The meeting happened. The account stayed put.
Right, but from the client side, the relationship may still feel pretty unproven. That early stretch isn't cleanup. It's where the client starts deciding whether this really feels solid.
This is Advising Humans, where we talk about the human side of advice, especially the part that doesn't always get said out loud.
And in this episode, we're looking at why those first 90 days matter so much in advisor change, because this is usually where trust either starts to settle in or starts to weaken quietly before the firm really sees it.
That really is the bigger point here. Advisor change isn't just a service transition, it's a trust transition.
And if that's true, then the first 90 days are when the client starts deciding how this new relationship actually feels, not just from what they're told, but from what it's like to live through it.
That's a strong way to put it.
It is. Because clients don't decide how they feel about the transition from the announcement alone. They decide from what happens next. Was it clear? Was it coordinated? Did they feel known? Did the household feel included? Did the new advisor feel believable and personal, not just competent on paper? Did the firm follow through the way it said it would? That's what shapes how the relationship feels going forward.
So this is not just an administrative window.
No, not at all. It's the stretch where the relationship either starts to feel real or it doesn't. And that's why firms really can't improvise here. The firms that do this well don't wing it. They have a repeatable way to help clients feel known, steady, and supported while trust is moving from one advisor to the next. This is where that either works or starts to come apart.
Okay, so let's make it practical. How should firms think about the first 90 days?
I'd break it into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the first 30 days, and the goal there is to reduce uncertainty and establish continuity.
So this is the stretch where client anxiety is usually highest.
It usually is, and the first job is not to flood the client with process. It's to make the relationship feel clear and steady. What's changing? What's staying the same? Who's handling what? How will support work? Why doesn't the client have to hold all of this together by themselves?
So phase 1 isn't just communication, it's really about lowering uncertainty.
Yes, clear language, visible continuity, quick follow-through, and no avoidable ambiguity. Because if the client is left filling in gaps with their own assumptions, those assumptions usually don't go anywhere helpful.
Okay, what about the middle stretch?
Phase 2 is really days 31 to 60, maybe even a little longer depending on the relationship. This is usually where confidence either starts building or it still doesn't. It's where the new advisory team has to move beyond explanation and start making the relationship feel real.
So what does that actually mean in practice?
It means a real conversation to reconnect, not because the client should have to start over, but because the relationship needs to feel personal again. It means asking what matters most to preserve. It means including the spouse or partner if they haven't really had their own voice in the process yet. It means finding out how the whole household feels, not just the main client. And it means showing that the important details didn't just get transferred on paper. The client can actually feel that you know them.
Yeah, so this is where firms correct for the tendency to focus too much on the main relationship holder.
They have to. Because a transition can look stable if you only read the main relationship holder. But if the spouse is unconvinced or the household still feels tentative, the relationship is not actually as steady as it looks. That's why household inclusion matters so much in this phase.
And then the back half becomes more about proof.
It does. By that point, it has to feel real. By days 60 to 90, the team has to stop talking about continuity and start showing it.
So what counts as proof?
Real things the client can point to, an updated plan, a sharper portfolio review, a clear service calendar, follow through that feels coordinated, good judgment they can actually see and feel. Basically, proof that the relationship is working and that the client isn't just being told things are fine. They can feel that things are fine.
That's such an important distinction because reassurance without proof probably has a short shelf life.
It does. Trust usually gets built through experience more than reassurance. By the back half of the 90 days, the client should have something concrete they can point to and say, okay, this relationship is actually working.
So when you put the three phases together, the sequence is really clear. First, lower uncertainty, then deepen comfort, then prove delivery.
Right, and that sequence matters because different mistakes show up in different phases. Early on, firms often undercommunicate. In the middle, they can forget to rebuild the relationship personally. Later, they can assume the client feels settled before there's been enough real proof.
And that's where the business implications come in.
Very much so. When this goes badly, the damage doesn't stay emotional. It turns into business damage too. Revenue gets affected. Growth gets affected. Referrals, too. Even enterprise value can take a hit. So if a firm wants to protect the relationship and the business around it, one of the most important questions isn't just, did we keep the client? It's, how quickly did this relationship start to feel steady in those first 90 days?
That idea is really strong, how quickly the relationship starts to feel steady.
It is, because if the relationship stays fragile too long, even without an immediate exit, other things can start happening. The client stops consolidating. New assets go elsewhere. Referrals slow down. The relationship stays on the books, but it's no longer growing the same way.
So what should firms actually track in that period?
A few things. Did the initial transition meeting happen quickly? Was the household properly included? Were promised follow-ups completed on time? Did the client experience visible continuity? Did the 60 to 90-day confidence check actually happen? And are there signs the relationship is actually getting stronger again, not just sitting there without falling apart?
So the firm should be watching the early signs, not just waiting for the obvious ones.
Yes, because by the time the client clearly leaves or clearly pulls assets, the emotional decision may have started much earlier. The better question is, are we seeing evidence that the relationship is stabilizing while we still have time to influence it?
That's such a good distinction.
And I think that really brings the whole episode into focus. Advisor change isn't just a handoff to finish, it's a relationship that has to become believable again. And those first 90 days are usually where the client starts deciding whether the continuity feels real or whether it only sounded good at the start.
Yeah, so if you wanted to boil it down, maybe it's this. The first 90 days are where continuity stops being a promise and starts becoming an experience.
I think that's right. If the client feels clear, known, included, and well supported across those first 90 days, trust has a real chance to deepen. If the experience feels thin, improvised, or uncertain, drift can begin before anyone says it out loud.
If this conversation made you think differently about why the first 90 days matter so much in advisor change, share it with another advisor or leader who cares about making these moments feel steadier, more thoughtful, and more human.
And if your team wants a more consistent way to handle advisor change, the Advisor Change Transition Playbook Suite for Advisors gives you shared language, meeting flow, and practical tools to help those first 90 days feel clear, personal, and steady across the firm.
Because the first 90 days don't just reveal whether the transition worked, they reveal whether trust actually carried forward.
Thanks for listening to Advising Humans.
We'll see you next time.